Well, it's time now for perspective. For the past 3 years, the Trump presidency has had journalists working overtime, covering an administration that's ripped up the rule book in more ways than one. To discuss journalism in the age of Trump and much more, I'm joined on set now by John Rick MacArthur, the president of Harper's magazine in the US, a monthly publication that covers everything from politics and literature to art and cinema. Thank you very much indeed for coming on to speak to us here at France 24 today. Now,
I'm delighted to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So you have dual nationality. You're American. You're also French. How would you characterise the main differences between French and American print media?
Well, until recently, the United States had a stronger tradition of investigative reporting than the French. But things have changed in France thanks to Mediapart and some other examples, and Le Canard Enchaîné and so on, so that they're trying to do investigative reporting in France à l'américaine, but they're not able to do it because the French government doesn't leak like the American government. The American government leaks like crazy. And you can see what's happening right now during the impeachment inquiry. The White House is leaking, as usual, against the interests of the president. So it makes the job of an American reporter a little bit easier. Plus, we have the Freedom of Information Act, and we have other methods that we use as reporters, that I use to get information out of the government. It's easier in America.
And of course, France is meant to be a country of freedom of expression. Is that the case in your experience, as much as the country would have you believe, possibly?
Yes. Well, it's paradoxical that there is more freedom of speech in France than there is in America, in my opinion, since I do a lot of media on both sides. You can say things from a political perspective in France, left, right, although in my case more to the left, that you just can't get aired on American television and radio. It's much more constricted. We have absolute freedom of speech. You can say anything you want, but it's harder to get heard if you're on the margins, I think, than if you're a French journalist or author.
Now, for a fair few years, people have been predicting the death of traditional print media. That doesn't seem to have happened. How do you account for that?
Well, one reason is that we're finding out from social scientists that people retain more information from the printed page than they do from the screen. They've done social scientific studies that show where they test 16-year-olds and they read the same text on TV and on a piece of paper, and the paper retention is significantly higher than the screen retention. And they're not exactly sure why, but I think this is something instinctive with parents and with writers, that we have to maintain our connection with the physical printed page. Now, that doesn't mean we're all doing great. The real menace to print and to all journalism is Google. I mean, Google is taking everything we do and distributing it essentially for free and selling advertising against it. It's a great model. They produce nothing, we do all the work, and they make all the money. So we're still in crisis.
Have you got any possible solution to that problem, to the Google hegemony?
Well, I was very impressed by Margaret Vestager. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name right, the European Commissioner on Antitrust. She's the only one I see on the scene, on the political scene in the West, really fighting Google, Amazon's dominance and really bad and malicious dominance of the media world these days. Our Justice Department has been asleep until very recently. They're beginning to look into the anti-competitive practices of Google, Facebook, Amazon, and so on. And I think there might be some movement, but there is a prima facie case ready to be launched against Amazon for predatory pricing. That just doesn't happen. They sell everything every book Amazon sells, they lose money on. They sell below cost, and that's putting book retailers, bookstores out of business, and putting tremendous pressure on publishers and authors.
Now, you have been a journalist for a long time, but definitely the last 3 years under President Trump. How have you found covering the Trump presidency?
Well, you know, it's fascinating because I went early on to a page one meeting of the New York Times when my friends invited me to watch them try to discuss how to cover Trump. And it happened to be the day where Trump announced that he would be happy to see the Israelis move their capital to Jerusalem. And the problem was the discussion, internal discussion at the paper between the Washington correspondent, the Israel correspondent, the foreign editor, and the editor of the paper was, how can we report something that we know he might take back tomorrow, in an hour, in 2 minutes, he might change his mind. There was really this discussion. As it turns out, this is something Trump really has stuck to and wants to do and has done. Now the American embassy is moved, but it's very unstable, very, very difficult to cover a moving target who also understands that he doesn't really need the news media to get his point of view across, because he can just go on Twitter anytime he feels like it. Now, this is not new. It really started with the Gulf War, the first Gulf War, where General Schwarzkopf figured out by having live press conferences every hour, every 6 hours, whatever, he could bypass the traditional media and speak directly to the American people.
And how do you think these impeachment proceedings are going to go?
Well, I hope I wish they'd happened earlier. I think the Mueller report was more than enough to impeach Trump. I don't care if you believe in Russian election interference or not. I happen not to think the Russians stole the election. I think Trump won the election under the Constitution. But the attempt to fire Mueller is so blatant. Robert Mueller, the special counsel who is assigned to investigate Russian interference in the election, so blatant, so outrageous that he should have been impeached months ago. The curious thing about what Trump is doing, he's acting as if he's under siege by partisans. That's what his lawyer's line is right now. This is an attempt to overturn the election. On the contrary, the Democratic leadership, Nancy Pelosi in particular, have been doing their utmost not to impeach him for months. She's only been dragged into this because of his latest mad attempt to investigate Biden with the help of the Ukrainian leader. It's a very, very clear-cut case of an impeachable offense. But trying to fire Mueller and trying to influence a foreign government to investigate a political rival. I'm sure there are other things that they could include in the impeachment indictment. And the question is going to be whether or not Republican senators are going to allow themselves to be convinced by the evidence.
We will have to see. John Rick MacArthur, president of Harper's Magazine in the US, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us here on France 24.
Thank you.